Hi everyone, I'm going to show you how to get that perfect pencil background without those horrible pencil lines. If you follow me on Facebook or Instagram, you might have seen this sheet that I completed while trying to create this tutorial. I felt that only doing a video of this would be the most helpful for you, and I hope you enjoy. This is a page from Joanna Basford's Magical Jungle that I photocopied for the ease of filming, and I'll be using my polychromos for this tutorial, but of course it will work with all coloured pencils. So let's get started. I've started with a fresh photocopied page, and I'll show you all the colours I'm using. As I'm using them, I'll pop them up on the screen for you. Now for this first layer, I'm going to be using the bluish turquoise, which is colour 149 from the polychromos. Make sure that you keep your pencil strokes all in the same direction. The direction that I like to colour is up and down, but everybody will have their own preference. Just make sure that they're always in the same direction for every layer that you do, and that way your strokes will be more uniform and they'll be much easier to cover up in later layers. The other tip is to keep very light, very even pencil pressure, so you don't get any horrible dark lines in here. As you can see, I'm starting to get lines just across here. Don't worry about those. I'll show you how to cover those up really well. Now this is where most people would stop and leave this as their background, but I'm going to do a second layer. All of my lines have gone up and down the page, so now for the second layer I'm going to do my lines at a perpendicular angle or right angle to the first lot. So here we go. Okay, so I'm going to stop here, and this is going to be the first layer, this is the second layer, and now I'm going to do a third layer, but I'm going to turn my page back in the original direction, and then I'll go from about here onwards and do my pencil strokes in the same direction as the first layer. And you can see that those lines are already starting to really fade away into a more mottled look. Now, those of you who still want to go further, we can do a fourth layer, and just like we did in the second layer, I'm going to turn the page 90 degrees and do my pencil strokes in another 90-degree angle, just like we did in this second layer. That's what people love most about the polychromos, I believe, is that they can layer really, really well, layer upon layer. So there you have it. We have our first layer here, which goes this way, the second layer here, the third layer here, and the fourth layer here. So in conclusion, the more layers you do, the smoother your background will be. Just make sure you keep every single layer at a right angle to the last. If you wanted to keep going, you could probably do a diagonal layer, and you could probably go over with a different color altogether, maybe a lighter blue, or even a blender pencil. So let's get going on the second layer, shall we? Now for the second layer that we're going to do here, I'm using these two polychromous greens. I'll put these up on the screen for you now. We have grass green and phthalo green. So I'm going to blend the darker colour up the top with the lighter colour down the bottom, and we'll get a nice gradient of these two colours in the middle here. As we did in the blue, we're going to start with gentle up and down strokes. So because we're blending two colours together, I'm doing even lighter strokes, if that's even possible, where I would like the two colours to start meeting. It's very challenging to keep the pencil strokes so light. So once I've finished this darker layer, I'll get my lighter green, and what I do is I start with the lighter colour going over top of the darker colour first by just a little bit, just so then they blend up into each other. And then I start bringing the light colour down here. Now I get my darker colour again, and I go over the lighter colour just a little bit, by about a centimetre. There's no hard and fast rule. We just want to bring it down a little bit using very light pressure over top of the lighter colour. Once you've done that, you bring up the lighter colour again and do another light layer over this. And now I'm going to continue all the way down the page with the lighter colour, and I'll come back up and finish this. So now I'm going to go back and do a second layer. I'm going to turn my page 90 degrees, and I'm going to start that second layer from where this gradiates. Now I'm going to bring in my darker colour, and I'm going to start a second layer. I'm going to work from the top and work down into the gradiated space. Now as I get closer to this gradient, I am extra careful with my pencil strokes, make them extra light and very even as I can. And I just gently work it down into the light green area. And then I do one more light layer of the light green, and I bring this up just a little bit more. And now I'm going to finish the second layer down here. So there's your colour gradation. If you would like to, you can do, as we did in the first one, you can do a few more layers just to get this a little bit darker. But that's how you get a gradiated colour. In the next section I'm going to show you how I would do this, but for several colours. Now for this third section, I'm going to show you how I blend these colours together. So I'm going to be using the magenta, the dark cadmium orange, the cadmium yellow, the light phthalo blue, and the cobalt blue, and I'll be blending them in this order. So let's get started. As with the first two sections, I'm going to start with up and down strokes. As with the first two sections that we did here and here, I'm going to start blending with the orange. So I'm doing as light as possible. It's very hard because this is a dark colour. Just do very light. And the orange is going to go up and over this darker colour. So now I'm changing to the dark cadmium. And I'm taking that back up into the darker colour. When I'm blending more than one colour together, I do the first layer very rough, just so I know where each colour is going to sit, and then in the second and third layers if necessary. Then I go and tidy it up and darken it and work them all together. Now I'm going to take the third colour. We have the cadmium yellow. Now I'm going to start with the fourth colour. Which is the light phthalo blue. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm bringing this colour back up into the yellow just to make the sections about the same size. And now I'm going to use the darkest colour, which is cobalt blue. So, as you can see here, we have very strong lines where each colour joins. So now I'm going to go back over with a second layer and I'm going to blend all of these together. So I'm going to start with the first two colours we had, and to blend this darker colour into the lighter one, I'm just going to feather this darker colour ever so slightly into the orange. If you make this line too big, then you'll end up taking over all of the darker colour. So you need to be very careful there. After you've done one layer with the darker colour, I bring in the lighter colour and I'm going to bring that up into the darker colour more. Now I'm going to start at the very top of the page, turning it at a right angle and work my second layer down here. As you cross down into the lighter colour, be extra careful with your pencil strokes. You don't want to accidentally leave big pencil lines right across the place where you're trying to gradiate the colour. Now I'm going to do the same thing for the orange. Bring my second layer down. As I get down here, I'm going to bring up the next colour, which is the yellow, and bring the yellow up into the orange. Now I've brought down the yellow enough, I'm going to start with the orange and just fix these lines here. Now I'm going to continue with the yellow on the second layer down here. Now that I'm almost at the light blue, I'm going to bring the light blue up into the yellow. This is especially careful. You have to be especially careful here because this is a darker colour coming up into a lighter one, as opposed to a lighter colour coming up into a darker one. So you want to keep those strokes as feather light as possible. Now I'm going to bring the yellow back down into the blue and swap over again. Any two colours can mix if you do enough layers. Now I'm going to continue my second layer of the blue. I'm bringing the dark blue down into the light blue. Sorry, I'm bringing the light blue down into the dark blue. I got my colours mixed up. Now for the dark blue and up into the light blue. These two are much easier to mix because they're the same colour, just different shades. Now this light blue is a little bit too light, so I'm going to do another layer. Some colours will need more layers than others. So you might find that one of the colours you've chosen might need 3 or even 4 layers, where other colours that you've chosen might only need 1 or 2. And just to mix these a little bit better, I'm just bringing a little bit more yellow down, ever so slightly. Now we're finished. So that's how I blend 5 different colours together. And now for the last layer, I'm going to do the same as I did in the first section with the dark colour, but I'm going to use just a single light colour. Sometimes light colours can be trickier than darker colours to get the texture just right. So here we go. The other tip I have for you guys is not to rush. Don't rush your work. Enjoy these backgrounds. The longer that you take and the more care you take, the nicer I think the result is. You can always tell if somebody's rushed through a background. And so now I'm just going to do a third layer. So there is my top 12 tips to getting your perfect pencil background. I hope you've enjoyed this. I'd like to hear your comments down below, how this worked for you, what you liked, what you didn't like, and what you'd like to see next time. Thanks very much. See you next time.